morning. Just want to make sure everyone can hear me. Excuse me, I just sneezed. I apologize. I've just come to life. I am here in deep southern British Columbia, everyone. Good morning. So I'd like to know if everyone's here. I woke up about 12 minutes ago. So that was my plan. Now, there is a little bit of color to the sky, not quite what I was hoping, but I am in beautiful Harrison Hot Springs. And I say beautiful because I used to have, hey, good morning. I used to have a funny feeling about this place, only because years and years ago, I drove all the way from Vancouver out here. Hey, good morning. All the way from Vancouver on the old road out here, which took way longer than expected to see it, because it's called Harrison Hot Springs, ergo hot springs. And of course, I'm from Banff, which is all about hot springs, right? And there were none, but there are hot springs here, and you have to hike up to them. But it's become this little resort town outside of Vancouver. I'm about 95 kilometers from Vancouver. I do want to say, look at this, by the way. Ready? Look at this gorgeous, gorgeous morning here. So it wasn't originally my intent to stay here, but yesterday as I drove out of Vancouver, there was a horrendous car accident on the other side of the highway on the slope. Good morning. On the slope, or on the side, hi, on the road going into Vancouver. I mean, horrendous. It really upset me what I saw. And it backed up the traffic so long that I was delayed an extra hour. So while I was sitting there, I was hoping to make it to Hope or even over to Merritt. And then I just went on to Expedia and found a hotel. And I thought, okay, hey, I'll come here. I haven't been here in, well, like I say, over 20 years. And I'm really glad I came here. I'm very, very sorry about the car accident. So, but I'm over here by Harrison Lake. Oh, good morning, lovely ravens. So this is a very, very typical lake of beautiful British Columbia. Look at these willows here. So this lake here, for example, is like 60 kilometers long. And it gets up to 300 meters, like 900 feet deep. These are these long, deep, post-glacial lakes. And I'm at the southern end. Sorry, I just heard something. Animals, they've got raccoons around here. So I'm at the southern end of the Fraser Valley. So if I went to the far end of this lake and hung a left and started, hi, and good morning to you, and started to head north, I would be up on the Fraser Canyon, the Fraser River, of course, and this is just so famous from, well, specifically the gold rush. And yesterday I came all the way down the Fraser Canyon. So in a matter of 3 days, I will have driven, 1,800 kilometers, 1,900 kilometers. So a little more driving than I probably want to do. But you just see some light. I didn't know what sunrise would be like, but look at the pink in the sky up there. So you can see this water's warm enough that that's a whole park, play park. And if you're wondering whether I would like to be out bouncing on all of that paraphernalia out there in the lake, yes, I would. That's exactly the kind of thing I'd like to do. So maybe after I say goodbye to all of you, I might come down here and jump in this lake for a swim. And then I'm going to start my long drive home to get back to beautiful Banff. Of course, I would have liked an extra day out at the coast. Good morning. I literally spent about an hour and 20 minutes in Vancouver yesterday. But I have a tour tomorrow morning in Banff at 7 a.m. with a 92-year-old lady, so I don't want to be late for her. So I'm looking forward to that, but it does mean I have to get all the way home. Do you know, so I just brought a mother and son out to the coast, did a 2-day tour on the way out. And really my plan was to rent a car and drive them out and fly home. And there were literally no cars to rent whatsoever. And so as a result, I am driving all the way home. So I guess I shouldn't say yes to things before I manage to see the availability. But that's on me. So look at this gorgeous valley. So we're in these rounded coastal mountains. I'm still only just above sea level. So I'm 95 kilometers, whatever that is in miles, 55 miles inland from Vancouver. Vancouver yesterday was just spectacular. Look at that. You can do a scenic boat tour out here and see eagles. And I saw a lot of eagles yesterday. The salmon are not running yet, but they're starting to run. But Little Harrison here is about 1,600 people, but you're in the area of Agassiz now. If you have very good eyes, and you really need good eyes, way up in the distance there, up in that valley, you will see snow up in the mountain there. Isn't that fantastic? So these are the Great Coastal Mountains. I'm on the north side of the Fraser River here. And so the Fraser really about maybe 8 kilometers just straight south. And then up to the north of me are just the huge coastal mountains that carry on one way or another all the way up to Yukon. I mean, that's how far they go. So I've got this great little beach here. Oh, I just saw a fish rise down in the lake. And of course, in case you're wondering, you do know what you call a fish with no eyes, right? It's a fish. But I'm just having fun listening to the birds out here this morning. And then we've got the ravens. And of course, we know we're in BC when you see kayaks on the top of people's cars. You know, beautiful British Columbia. Can sound a little showy, but it sure is true. It is. It's just the flowers are gorgeous. The trees are gorgeous. So we are in, I think it's Shula, but we're in the Stolo Nation region. The Stolo people are the people of the river, as we say. And they have been living in this region for, well, probably 40,000 years seems to be roughly the indication. And by the time they had contact with Europeans, that's very interesting to me. That looks like a bit of crab down in the sand down there, but it is freshwater. It's not saltwater here. Very strange. By the time there's something like today, maybe 7,500 people who would identify as Stolo. So, 80% of the population was wiped out by disease with contact. That was a great question. Does it rain a lot here? Absolutely, it rains a lot here. This is lush and green. This is not the Rockies. We're very much in the coastal environment. And these mountains, you drive inland from Vancouver. And of course, the lower mainland, that's what we refer to the greater Vancouver area, because it literally is the lower mainland of British Columbia. We are in Harrison Hot Springs, to your question right now. So a community of about 1,600 people. It's a little resort community. It's just a few blocks, but it's up here wedged against this 60-kilometer lake that is 300 meters deep. So, and there's no lifeguard on duty, but I somehow think I'll make it. But these sort of inland fjords are very much the construction of this physical environment. But this is, so the hot springs themselves, Harrison, by the way, worked for the Hudson's Bay Company. So the Hudson's Bay Company went and established themselves at Fort Hope. In fact, very specifically, in 1846, the boundary, the 49th parallel, was created between what was the United States. And I say it was sort of the United States. I mean, it absolutely was. That country became independent in 1776, as we know, but their western territories were not that clear. And then the British Empire, and this was actually a crown colony called New Caledonia, and then there was Vancouver Island, and the two were fused together after gold was found on the Fraser River in 1858. Now that is only, where the gold was found is really only maybe 20 kilometers from here, and that was the start of the British Columbia gold rush. Look at the brown-eyed Susans. Good morning, you lovely flowers. So people started to flood in here during the Caribou Gold Rush. And by 1862, Barkerville was established way up in Caribou country, which is still another 280 miles from here, because they were mile markers back in those days. And that was the massive gold rush way up into the center of British Columbia. And that really led to the establishment of this and the creation in 1864 of British Columbia as they united the two colonies. And then that entered Confederation in Canada in 1871. Well, Confederation was 1867, but it was really spurred on by this. There's the Black Forest restaurants. One very little Germanic restaurant over here. Anything alpine in this country seems to carry on a little bit of a Germanic or Swiss view to it. But then, of course, there's a Greek restaurant down here too. So heck, we are a multicultural society, so we might as well be multicultural. So here's the main beach and lagoon over here. So it's just a gorgeous little place, and I actually do wish that I had an extra day now, but I really do have to go home. Actually, I'm going to take you to this plaque over here, and then, oh, I do have to show you, because of the picture that I put up last night when I decided that I put up a little tour over here. By the way, the stores over here are selling jade. Jade occurs all through the mountains here on the west coast of British Columbia, all the way down to Central America. So jade is a pretty big deal. But look at that. I'd say we're virtually a spitting image, wouldn't you? I never realized I had a twin, but now I realize I've shaved, of course. Hey, thank you. Thanks, Nat. I appreciate that. But we, yeah. Do you love jade? It's, if I were to buy a souvenir from this country, often what I recommend to people when they come to Canada is I say, get an Inukchuk. Inukchuk, of course, is stone person. It's an Inuit symbol, and I think it's a pretty cool thing. So up here, you've got the Canadian flag, British Columbia flag, which is a beautiful flag, although it doesn't need the colonial flag on top of it. But then they're going to have a community flag, and then there'll be the nation along here. But this is also very much, and specifically the land of the Sasquatch. So there's Stalis. How Stalis got its name is derived from the word means beating heart. So yeah, and the hot springs have been used since time immemorial by the Stalis people. The springs are a renowned transformer site. Now there's two. Thank you very much. Appreciate that, honey. When we talk about these natural hot springs, look at this. There are petroglyphs around here. So there's natural outshoots. One of their hot springs apparently comes out at 65 degrees Celsius. And that's pretty hot. But this gives you a sense of what these glacial lakes are like. So have a look here. So there's Harrison River down here, which is the outflow. That's how long this lake is. And that island is so long, it's a long island. But look at that, you have snow-capped peaks. It really is magnificent, but this is their traditional territory. This is what reconciliation actually looks like, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. I think it's really important. It's not just land acknowledgements, it's also how people are still here today, and I think that's really an important thing. And I like to be part of reconciliation because my family were certainly part of conquest, but this is where we really get the thing. So, So 1858, the legend goes that the first Europeans learned the springs was a group of miners who put ashore after returning from Port Douglas. They were suffering from hypothermia and only survived by immersing themselves into hot water. Whether that's true or not, one doesn't know. But then you had, of course, the massive gold rush. There is the 1858, upwards of 30,000 miners. The Crown Colony of Victoria back in the 1840s was about 500 people. So when it changed to be 30,000, I mean, that was such a massive change. Most of them came up from that San Francisco area where you'd had the California gold rush as well. Imagine the desperation of those gold rushes. Really, truly, you know, what it was like. Because none of these people had any technical training, yet they had to work out how to mine. So you're in a big fault line here. This massive fault down through this heavy granite rock. Now, do remember, this rock here is tourist rock into the continent. What do I mean by that? Well, I mean that as the Pacific plate has subducted under the North American plate, it has come in and whacked into the continent, and all of this rock around me was brought in on top of the Pacific plate. So that's why the Canadian Rockies, my home, which I'll get to at about 6 o'clock today, are all pointing from west to east, because they were ocean bed once upon a time. But all this other rock was on top of that Pacific plate, and just came in and whacked into what is now British Columbia and created this sort of giant accordion. That is the coastal mountains, the Columbia Mountains. In between those two, you have the Okanagan Valley, the dry, high desert sort of valley we have. And then you have the Rocky Mountain Trench, longest, as far as I know, the longest above ground trench in the world. And then, of course, the Canadian Rockies. It is a beautiful temperature this morning. I just want to show you some of the light. This is their little lagoon out here. Although I'm more inclined to swim actually in the lake. But there's the light up there. Isn't that beautiful this morning? And you look out, and just once again to zoom in, look at all the snow up in those mountains. So we're virtually at sea level. We are in August, and there's still snow up there. That is a nice indication. There is a fire in the region, although I only saw one real tuff of smoke yesterday. All these nice little holiday apartments and everything down along that area. So by the time I got in last night, it wasn't dark, but it was getting later. I was exhausted, I must admit. The temperature right now, great question. I'm in shorts and I'm not cold at all. So I have to say it's probably even 1 or 2 degrees above freezing. No, it's more than that. It's probably 15 this morning. You know, it's just 6 a.m. out here. I'm way out on Pacific time. And so, yeah, if I were to guess, I'd probably say about 15 degrees Celsius. For my Fahrenheit friends, that's 60, I think, or a million. I don't know. I don't understand Fahrenheit at all. No, but it's somewhere around there. So it's, look at this chair. Goodness me. I'm not going to sit on that because I just think I'd feel silly in it. But that's okay. You can call me Pee-wee. Boy, these little swifts are all over. Tell you what, zero and wearing shirts would be very Canadian of me. I totally agree with that. And I was too. Look at this, caution deep water. Water depth increases rapidly, which is quite natural. But that's why, and it's actually a fair comment to talk about. That's because all of these lakes are post-glacial lakes. That means when you look at the mountains both sides, they go straight down deep inside. And so you've got these almost like a riverbed at the base of them. Now, this is even true of Lake Okanagan, which is 130 kilometers long, 92 miles, something right up by Kelowna, right? They're all post-glacial. So you're looking at a big glacial valley. And everyone knows a glacial valley because it's a great big U. If it's a V, it's a river valley. So I think it's a really interesting point. Oh, and look at the goldenrod that's coming up here. These gorgeous flowers that are popping out around us here. It's interesting when you get into Greater Vancouver, suddenly you get really, I'm doing fine, thank you, really busy traffic. But as soon as we get out here, it gets quiet. So what I'm going to do from here this morning, not long after I say goodbye to everyone, I'm going to drive south. I'm going to hang west on number 7 on the north side of the Fraser River. And then I will go through Little Hope. And then, of course, I will be beyond Hope. And I will go up and over the Coquihalla Pass and over to Merritt. Now, Merritt's in the Nicola Valley. It's the next big valley over, and the whole ecosystem changes dramatically. It goes from this lush green environment we have here to suddenly a really dry bowl. Then I go over another big pass. And when I say another big pass, I get up to 1,700 meters. And, you know, so whatever that is at about 5,500 feet. And remember, I'm at like 100 meters here, 300 feet. Above sea level. And then I get into that Kamloops area, which is the meeting of the waters. And that is suddenly the Thompson Valleys. And they all pour down into the Fraser River. And of course that drains most of the center of this massive province. I say massive province. All of British Columbia. It's really fun to talk about this. I love explaining to people. All of British Columbia is about 6 million people. Hey, thank you. So Greater Vancouver, about 3 million. Vancouver Island, about 1 million. That means in an area that's bigger than France, Germany, Britain put together, there's about 2 million people. That's how vast British Columbia is. And so any kind of infrastructure is actually a lot of effort out here, but also you just get a massive amount of wilderness. I love when the birds are dipping down, drinking water in the morning. Isn't it just gorgeous out here this morning? Thank you. Will it be busy? Oh, sorry. Come on. That is a big heron. Just took off. Good morning. It's funny. I did see that heron last night too. Yeah, beautiful weather. Yeah, the roads as I drive home will be busy. You know, they'll actually be busier as I sort of get up towards the Banff area, there'll be a ton of traffic coming into central British Columbia because so many Albertans from Calgary and Edmonton, from the big cities that are over there, come into the lakes in central British Columbia. They don't come out this far. This is too far. Although I actually, at dinner last night, and which I will proudly say to you, I just had vegetables. I met two people from Calgary, super nice people. I was a math professor, actually. So I said to him, that adds up. And he thought that was kind of funny. The drive from here to home will take me about 8 hours. Now, yesterday I should have been here in an hour and a half, and it took me 2.5 hours because of the horrendous accident on the road, which was just, really awful. I do want to offer, and I know this is obviously just a live tour, but I do want to offer a really warm thank you to those first responders who have to go to the scenes of horrendous accidents and everything. I mean, they're lifesavers, but it must just be soul destroying to see people whose cars have been smashed up, So, I just did a lot of time for those people. And then there must have been 25 kilometers of cars that were stuck. So that was just sort of a moving thing. These are aspen trees once again. So they're in the poplar family, same ones we get up in the mountains. Now, there's some little bugs flying around here, but these coves and bays here, this is just so typical of the coastal environment in British Columbia. One of the neat things here in BC, of course, is we're not that far from the Pacific Ocean. And the ocean, it's cold, but it's definitely not freezing. Like, you can absolutely swim in it. Oh, there's a heron. There you go, down in the little lagoon. So there's the heron right down there. Good morning. Did you see him or her? And so then you just don't have to come very far into the mountains before you get into the freshwater. And of course, it is British Columbia, and really the driving factor of the British Columbia economy is real estate more than anything else. That is a very interesting statistic to play with. Back in about the year 2000, some economist said, you're better to buy real estate in Vancouver than buy gold. Don't know if that's still true. But right through, of course, there's all this condominium development, and prices are just stunning. Vancouver is, it depends how you measure it, but maybe the second most expensive real estate environment in the whole wide world. So just this heron right down here in the little lagoon. So they're obviously cleaning this land. Let me see. There we go. See the heron right there? Hello, you beautiful. Now, the other thing we could see around here would actually be black bears. So we're in black bear country. You get right up to the coast and you're back into grizzly country. So the grizzlies, of course, can live off salmon, which is a big part of their diet out on the coast. And that's why the bears, the Kodiak bears, Kodiak Island, which up near Alaska, are the biggest bears in the whole wide world. Oh. That heron's just out doing some morning flying and eating. It is peaceful, isn't it? I was sort of hoping... Oh, two herons. Huh. Let me see. I don't know if I can really zoom in and get them, but they're obviously hanging out, being friends this morning. But it is a very peaceful place, and I wish you were all here just to hear the sounds of the birds this morning, because it's peaceful and lovely. The temperature is just about perfect. It could be maybe 2 degrees warmer, although the interior of the province is getting up into the 30s today, so that's the high 80s in Fahrenheit. I'll see if I drive through rain. So on my drive home, it's really interesting. So I'm still in the coastal mountains. My first climb is up and over Coquihalla Summit, and that's where I go up and over the coastal ranges. Then I get into that Okanagan Valley, and then from Kamloops along, I'm actually on fairly narrow winding roads. Like, it's not particularly pleasant driving. That section of the Trans-Canada Highway has still not been twinned or turned into 4 lanes. Then I get into really funky, fun Revelstoke. Will you be here soon? And then I climb all the way up to Rogers Pass. My intent is to do maybe a 10-kilometer hike at the top of Rogers Pass today. So that's why I wanted to get up early and leave early enough to get away, to factor that time in. I want to go and hike around Old Glacier House, which was another one of those great Canadian Pacific hotels once upon a time. Then I descend down into the Rocky Mountain Trench and Golden, British Columbia. and then I start up Kicking Horse Pass. You're walking next to me, that's lovely. And then I climb up, of course, into Alberta and into the Rocky Mountains. Look at this reflection. This is just perfect. So I arrived here just before night last night. There we go. Oh, it's just gorgeous. Now these mountains, when you see that sort of rounded look to them, they've been ground down by glaciers. Basically, effectively, all of this country was glaciated at one point. I mean, so much so, Niagara Falls, I don't think I'd get into this lagoon though. That looks a little murky in there. I don't think it'd be dangerous at all. I just don't think it'd be that much fun. But what a lovely morning reflection. So Niagara Falls was created, of course, when the ice receded, and it was correcting the disequilibrium between the Lake Erie and Lake Ontario. So that's what formed that. But out here, this is really hard metamorphic rock. There's a huge mix of rock. I actually Googled the geology last night, and it's really, really complicated. But there's this big fault that comes down through here, and that's what's exposing some of these natural hot springs. There are no active volcanoes here in Canada or in British Columbia. Well, nowhere in the country, but just south of the border. And we wouldn't see it. But on a day that's this clear, probably you only have to go south about 10 kilometers and you can see Mount Baker, massive smoking volcano, just over on the Washington side. So I'm only 25 kilometers maybe from Washington State here. So I'm in the far, far, far south of British Columbia. And then you see all those volcanoes. So Mount Washington, Mount Rainier, Mount St. Helens, Mount Hood, whole thing's down to Shasta. That's that Cascadian subduction zone, as we call it. And that is the Juan de Fuca plate that is all churned up in between the Pacific plate and the North American plate. But when you look up this way, you're looking up towards the Fraser Canyon. And of course, the Fraser River is totally in British Columbia. It is about 1,300 miles, or kilometers, about 1,000 miles north-south, and it starts just across the border from Alberta, just across from Jasper. It doesn't go through a single lake, and so therefore it doesn't filter anything out. And it comes all the way down, and really all the debris brought down by the Fraser River, that's what's created the Delta, which is Greater Vancouver area. So Vancouver Airport, YVR, is actually an island. There's actually a city called Delta, and the city of Richmond, which is an island city. Richmond is over 50% Chinese speaking, fabulous place to eat, but it's one place I personally would not like to live because, not that I'm very scared of many things, but if the big earthquake does happen, that's all soft soil and it would liquefy, as they say, and so that's always a bit of a concern. We are waiting for a massive earthquake out here. A 9 point whatever. Hey, that big one in Russia last week out in Kamchatka. If everyone wants to chip in and buy me a trip sometime in my life, I'd love to go to Kamchatka. That peninsula is full of geothermal activity. It's really hard to get to, super isolated. You kind of have to helicopter in to go to most of it, and most of it's out of bounds because it was old Soviet Navy and that sort of thing back in the Cold War. Oh, you need to go back to work. I wouldn't do it. I'd give up on that whole work thing. I think it's totally overblown personally. Now, out with me, by the way, because I'm touring tomorrow morning and the next day. And the next day I have 12 hours of tours, 2 tours to do. And then I'm lecturing for 12 hours the following day. So Wednesday is the first day I can get my head out of water. But I'm looking forward to that. This, by the way, is an ornamental maple. That is a big one. And maple is the one big hardwood you get in this part of the world. We don't usually, most of our woods are softwoods, but that is a lovely big hardwood right there. But it feels just so healthy to be here. By the way, it just feels good to be around this nice fresh air. Oh, this one's got a plaque. I think it's worth dedicated to the memory of Michael Rosen, village planner from 2008 to 2012. Yeah, a goal without a plan is just a wish. That seems pretty nice. Oh, it smells lovely too. It must have rained overnight. It certainly wasn't when I was still awake, but I was up super late. I think I was up till maybe 9:45 or something. But yeah, it must have rained overnight, which is nice to see. There's the Black Forest. I really could do with an extra day here now that I'm here. I love these little towns. And you know, you're just, well, if traffic's good, you're an hour away from one of the world's great cities. You know, beautiful, beautiful Vancouver, British Columbia. So there we are, ladies and gentlemen. That was our little morning sunrise walk. It's 6:30 in the morning now. So I think I might have to jump in the lake, but then I'm gonna jump in my car and I'm gonna start to head east. You are making a lot of noise. Yes, I hear you. You're telling us stories, aren't you? That's only one crow. So you've only seen a bird, whereas if there were a lot, you would have witnessed a murder. Oh, the other one's responding over there. So, oh, you're welcome. Well, thanks for waking up, everyone, and seeing me this morning. So, peace and love. Nice to see you. Thank you for your contributions too. I really appreciate that. I will probably put your contributions normally. I dedicate them to something like beer, but this time it'll probably be dedicated to something like petrol, gasoline, as I drive home. This little jaunt here and back will have cost me $250 in fuel. Isn't that amazing? Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, lots of love, and hopefully you see why I wanted to share this with you. It's just gorgeous. Really quite impressed by this. Oh, and the little motel that I booked over here, like literally tiny little motel. There's now a restaurant called Base Camp, and they're based in Canmore, Alberta. But they seem to be taking over a huge amount of the mid-level accommodation, which is really interesting. So, Danny, hey, sorry, dear friend, lovely to see you. So listen, lots of love. I'm trying not to say people's names outright because these videos get played for 1,000 years after, but so nice to see many of you. And a couple of names I haven't seen for a while, so it's good to see everyone back. Big hugs here all around. Take care, be healthy and happy, and I will maybe post a video or two of my drive home, but I was hoping for a bit more intense light this morning, but it's still pretty nice. Oh, there's all the crows are waking up, telling stories. All right, ladies and gentlemen, take care. Lots of love from Harrison Hot Springs, southern British Columbia. There's a beautiful willow tree there. All right, everyone, big hugs. So nice to connect as a community. Keep in touch. Bye-bye.